Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to learn how to incorporate what's called for loops, or also known as iterative loops, into our Blockly coding. These loops will allow us to perform more advanced pick-and-place tasks, such as stacking blocks. Let's go ahead and get started. Up here in the left-hand corner, first thing you want to do is make sure your DoBot is connected, okay? And before anything, always make sure everything's plugged in before powering on your DoBot, okay? And then once you're connected, select suction cup here. Okay. And once that's done, let's come over here to Blockly. Okay. And select that. Let's go ahead and X out of here. All right. First thing we want to do here is go ahead and open up our operation panel. Okay. Make sure you home your robot first. I already homed mine, so I'm going to get going here to save time. So once you've homed your robot, place a cube, okay, directly underneath it. And you don't have to, but if you want, place a piece of paper underneath it and draw an outline of your square, okay? And then go ahead and lower the z-axis here so that it's about, 10 millimeters or so above the cube. So take note of your X, Y, and Z positions here, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and go to DoBot API here, go to Motion, and we're gonna grab a absolute line of code here, move to X, okay? And we're going to go ahead and type in these coordinates. 228, 0, and Z here is at -8. Okay. Now let's go ahead and go back over to Motion. And we're going to go over here and grab our suction cup on block of code. And let's go ahead and snap it in there. And we're going to make sure it says on. Now let's come back to our operation panel and move our Z down to where it's just touching the block. Okay, that looks about right. All right, now let's come back over to Motion here. Grab our Move To block again. Okay, and notice that we've only moved it in the Z direction. So we can make all these other values the same. X, Y, and Z values the same. So we have 228, Y, and now let's put our new Z value in here, which is -28. Yours may vary. You may have -25, -30, okay? Depending upon where you homed it. Are you on a flat surface? So let's think about what we've done so far. We have a move to position, which is just above our block. Suction cup turns on, and then we move down to our block. The next block or line of code we're interested in is a jump to movement. Okay, so when you're doing a pick and place, you typically want to move a box or an object to a different location. So let's go ahead and first let's come to configuration, and we're going to set our jump height here. This will tell us how far we want to jump, okay, how high, and we're gonna set that in there as 50. I like it to go high. I can always change it later. And then we're gonna come back to motion here, and we're going to do a jump to, and we're going to grab it and set it in place with our previous code or blocks. So we're going to make our X the same. We don't need to move it in the X direction, so let's just keep it simple and make it the same. Okay. Y, though, we are going to move. We're going to move the Y direction in a minus, let's say 80. Anywhere between 60 and 100 is probably okay, as long as it's within the DoBot work envelope. And then the Z, well, we're going to make it the same. Where -28, I believe, is where we set it down at. Okay. Now keep in mind, your Z values might be slightly different. Okay, your Y values might be slightly different. Okay, and that's okay. As long as you're doing a simple pick and place, you're in good shape. And now that we've jumped to and moved our block, we want to drop it. So we're going to have to come over here to motion again, and we're going to have to turn our suction cup off. So drag your block of code here, suction cup, and change that to off. All right. Now think about what our code is doing here. So we're moving here to above the cube. We're turning the suction cup on. We are we're getting the cube here, and then we're moving it over to these X, Y, and Z values here. And then we're turning our suction cup off so it drops the cube. And then let's add one more block of code for our pick and place um, procedure here. Let's go to motion. And it's always good policy to move your doobot in a safe location. And so we're just going to basically, well, keep everything the same except for the Z value. We're going to move it up into a safe location. We're going to keep our Y value the same, but we're going to make our Z go up to, once again, sort of a safe location here. I'm just going to pick 50. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and see how it performs. All right. Go ahead and make sure your doobot's connected. Once again, if you are having any issues, you may need to update your firmware. Go ahead and hit start, and let's see how it performs here. Suction cup on, moves the block over to here, turns it off. Looks good. So we've done our simple pick and place robot movement here. So, or procedure or task, whatever you want to call it. So why don't you, if your robot did it and correctly, go ahead and save your code and take a snippet of your code. And now we're going to move on to our main objective. If you recall, the main objective of the assignment is to pick and place and stack 3 cubes. Okay, so pick and place is basically pretty easy, doing at least one. But in the real world, when you're doing things like palletization, you want to stack things. And this requires a little bit more advanced coding. To stack the blocks, let's go ahead and move our cube back to its original position here. Okay, and we're going to do something, now that we have our pick and place lines of code already done, now we can go ahead and start inserting what's called a for loop or an iterative loop. An iterative loop will basically loop this line of code multiple times, but it will change it. It'll change it incrementally to achieve a goal or purpose or a task of some sort. So let's go ahead now and start doing that. So what we're going to do is first, we learned about variables earlier. We're going to go ahead and create a new variable here. And we're just going to kind of drag it up here and let it kind of hover above our previous code. We're going to click here and we're going to rename the variable. Okay, and we're going to call it, let's just call it loop underscore number. So in other words, our variable is going to be called how many times are we going to loop here? Okay, and go ahead and hit OK. All right, now come on over here to, I believe it is math, and we're just going to find our 0 here, and we're going to go ahead and put that in. Looking pretty good so far. Okay, and now, okay, we've kind of investigated loops already, but now we're going to do a more advanced loop with the for loop or iterative loop, and we're going to drag it over here onto our code in between here. So let's go ahead and move it in between our variable and our movement code. And then we can move our variable code here onto this and kind of snap it all in place. Okay. Now, we want to loop it 3 times because we need to stack 3 blocks. So 3 blocks means we're going to run through our code 3 times. So we're going to change this here to loop number. And when you're doing coding, it's always good policy to start with 0. And we're going to change this to 2. And we're going to do an increment value of 1. So think about that. Our first loop is going to be 0. Our second loop is going to be 1. And our third loop is going to be 2 here. So we're going to go through it 3 times. 0, 1, and 2. Okay, by 1. Now here's where a little thinking comes into place. So when we move the block, we move to this jump to position right here. All right. And we set it at this Z position here, minus 28. All right. So we want to set our first block there at minus 28, but we want to set our next block above that position. Well, it turns out that these blocks have about a length of 25 millimeters. So we're going to want to basically move it up 25 millimeters as we loop through the code. So let's come over here to math, and in our Z value here, in our jump to Z value, we're going to replace that here with this, and we're going to type in minus 28. Okay, make sure it says a plus sign there. And then for now, we're just going to leave that 1. All right, now let's go back over again to our math button here, and we're going to drag over another block of code, and we're going to put it in that same math, that same line of code we just dragged over. But we're going to put it on the other side of the plus sign here, and we're going to change 1 here to 25. So think about what this is saying now. Okay, we're going to move it here to 28, minus 28 first, essentially setting our cube on the ground or on the table. Then we're going to add 25 the next time we loop through it. So we're higher, our Z value is higher. But we're not quite done yet. We need to reference our variable. We need to reference our loop variable here, and so we need to bring over our loop here, which is already there for us. Blockly already creates it. It's like, hey, you made this. Okay, so, and we want to change our plus sign here to a multiplication sign. Okay, so what we're saying is we're going to multiply 25 by how many times we loop through it. Okay, so we're going to set our first block down here at minus 28. The next time we loop through it, we're going to go to 25 times that loop number. All right, and we're going to keep doing it. So let's go ahead and test it out. Grab 3 blocks and set them, get them in place here. All right, let's go ahead and hit the start button when you're ready and test your code out. Let's see. It's going to come on over here. Turn the suction cup on. Now replace that block with another cube, please. It's going to move it over, stack another block, turn the suction cup on, do our pick and place, and it looks like we're good. We've stacked 3 blocks pretty successfully. All right. Now, if your code looks good, if everything worked out for you, go ahead and save your code and take a screen snippet of your code. Also, I'm going to challenge you now to do the following, especially if you finished early. See if you can start with 3 blocks and then pick up and move them and stack them, these 3 blocks, in another location. So you're going to start with 3 block stacks and you're going to end with 3 cubes stacked in another location. Okay, so go ahead and try that, and once you get it, if you do get it or you need help, come ask me. But if you do get it, remember to save your code. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.